Hello. Welcome to the first of the Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. A special thanks to my patrons for supporting me. At the beginning of this part we see that our protagonist is reading the 3 ways to survive the apocalypse. He reads, there are 3 ways to survive the apocalypse. Everything is fading and becoming unclear now. But one thing is certain, if you're reading this, you will survive. The end. Story is written by TLS 123. Our protagonist swipes up and down. And says, really, is that it? Our protagonist says, I'm Dokya. Dokya can mean only son or reader. I usually introduced myself to people like this, then the following misunderstanding would occur. Oh, are you an only child? I am, but that isn't what I mean. Huh. Then, my name is Dokya. Kim Dokya. Kim Dokya thinks, my father gave me that name to be a strong man by myself. However, thanks to the name my father gave me, I turned out to be just a normal single and lonely man. In short, it was like this. I was Kim Dokya, 28 years old, and single. Dokya thinks, my hobby was reading web novels on the subway. He starts to check his phone. On his way home from work. He thinks, but today's subway ride was unlike any other. Some comes to him and says, oh, my. At this rate you might get sucked into your phone. Dokya raised his head reflexively. A pair of curious eyes were staring straight at him. They belonged to an employee from the Human Resources team, Sangha-yu. Dokya says, hello. Sangha-yu says, are you going home from work? Dokya says, yes. What about you, Sangha? She says, I was lucky. The manager went on a business trip today. Sangha sat down soon as the seat next to Dokya became vacant. A subtle scent came from her shoulders, making him nervous. Dokya thinks, I can't believe Sangha, the most popular girl at work, is here on the subway. Dokya asks, do you normally take the subway? She says, that. Sangha made a dark expression. Starting with personnel manager Kong to finance manager Han. There were rumors that Sangha had men from the company driving her home every workday. Sangha says, someone stole my bicycle. Dokya says, bicycle? You commute to work on a bike? She says, yes. I have a lot of overtime these days and seem to be lacking exercise. It is a bit annoying, but it is worth doing. Sangha smiled. Dokya thinks, looking closer at her, I could understand the feelings men held toward her. However, it was none of my business. She and I lived completely different lives. Dokya thinks, and just so you know, Sangha wasn't the reason why today's subway ride was different. She says, por favor dinero. Dokya says, pardon. Sangha replied proudly, it's Spanish. It means, please give me some money. Dokya thinks, studying on the subway while going home. She truly had a genre different from me. However, what was the use of memorizing words? Dokya says, you're studying hard. She looks at his phone and says, by the way, what is Dokya SSI looking at? He says, I. She asks, is it a novel? Dokya says, yes, well. I am studying Korean. She says, wow, I also like novels. I haven't been able to read lately because I don't have time. She says, my favorite authors are Murakami Haruki, Raymond Carver, Hong Kong. Dokya thinks, I thought so. She asks him, Dokya SSI, what writers do you like? Dokya says, you won't know even if I say their names. Dokya thinks, that's right. My hobby is reading serialized web novels on the subway on my way home from work. Although I'm not proud of my hobby, the reason today is unlike any other is because 3 Ways to Survive the Apocalypse, or TWSA for short, which I've been reading for the past 10 years, is ending today. He says, people might wonder why I'm making such a fuss over the ending of a web novel, but this story in particular is very special to me. After that we see that the story has over 3,125 episodes, but every episode only has 1 comment and 1 view. He thinks, I've been reading this series since I was in 8th grade. I read it when I was bullied at school. When I failed my entrance exams and ended up at a third-rate college. When bad luck got me stationed on the front line during my military service. And even now, as an unstable contract worker getting transferred from company to company. Damn it. What's the point? Anyway, I don't have a single happy memory. It's bittersweet that this fictitious world I've been following for so many years was now coming to an end. Today is the day the epilogue of TWSA will be uploaded. A grand serial consisting of 3,149 episodes. A 10-year-long epic journey that began in my late teens and ended in my adulthood. I can't believe the series went on for so long with just an average view count of 1. The first chapter had around 1,200 views, but by chapter 10, there were only about 20 views. Then the view count dropped to 12 by chapter 50. And now I'm the only one reading. It was a story written for me and only me. I wanted to support the author with a donation. But it was hard enough to even make ends meet, so I just thanked the author by writing a comment. I tried recommending the series to others, but they just criticized me. It's a great series if you can bear through it. People can be cruel. Sangha says, Dokya. They both stare at each other. Dokya startled and thinks, I forgot she was here. He says, oh. Come to think of it, it's already been a year since we started working at the company. We started around this time last year. Time sure flies by, doesn't it? He thinks, I should change the topic. She smiles and says, yeah, we had no idea what we were getting into back then. Dokya says, yeah, it seems like it was only yesterday. I can't believe our contracts are ending soon. She gets sad. He thinks, I forgot. Sangha was promoted to full-time last month. She says, oh, Dokya says, that's right. Sorry for the late congratulations. I guess I should have learned a foreign language too. She says, no, it's fine Dokya. I haven't complete my performance assessment yet, and Dokya thinks, I don't want to admin it, but Sangha is so cool. If W were characters in a novel, she would definitely be the heroine. It was obvious. I didn't try, but Sangha gave it her all. I read web novels, while Sangha studied Spanish. So clearly someone like her would become a full-time employee and I wouldn't. She says, Dokya. Dokya says, yes. She says, if you want, I could tell you the name of the app I use. Dokya is surprised and thinks, if I were in a different genre. If the genre of my life wasn't nonfiction, but fantasy. He sees a boy sitting in front of him with a box of insect in it. Dokya thinks, could I have been the protagonist? She says, Dokya. Dokya says, no need, Sangha. He thinks, I don't know. If one thing was certain. He says to Sangha, it wouldn't matter if you told me the name of the app or not. He thinks, it's that the genre of my life is non-fiction. And in this genre I'm no protagonist. I'm merely a reader. He says, I have to live my own life. She asks, your own life? You're so inspiring, Dokya. Dokya says, sorry. She says, I should also live my own life. Like you, I'll strive to live my life to the fullest. Dokya thinks, well, at least that got her to stop talking. He gets a message on his phone. He says, back then, I had no idea. TLS 123 The author of the TWSA says, thank you. Dokya is surprised and says, is this the author of TWSA? Dokya what would happen to me next? Dokya asks, are you the author of TWSA? Author says, thanks to you. I was able to finish my story. I also won a prize in a contest. Dokya thinks, what? TWSA was in a contest. It really is him. Dokya says, congratulations. But what kind of contest? Author says, it's not a big contest, so you wouldn't have heard of it. Oh, and the series will become paid content soon. Starting with the epilogue today, TWSA will become paid content. As a token of gratitude, I would like to send you a special present. Could you tell me your email address? Dokya says, what was about to happen to this world? Dokya asks the author, a present. Author says, after all, I was able to publish my story thanks to you. Dokya thinks, wow. TWSA won a contest. An unknown contest. I guess he doesn't want to tell me because he's embarrassed. Dokya thinks, a present. Is it a gift card? It would be great if it's a $50 gift card. He receive a new message. Dokya thinks, it came. The present. Arthur says, Mr. Dokya Kim, starting at 7 p.m. today, TWSA will become paid content. This will help you. I wish you all the best. Dokya thinks, starting at 7 p.m. It's 6:55 right now. So that means I have 5 minutes left. He thinks, I'll go into my favorites and, Dokya thinks that's weird. Do they remove serials without prior notice when they become paid content? The train stops. Some crashes and other really loud sounds starts coming from around the train. Passengers says, what's happening? Is it a terrorist attack? Everyone is really scared. A white monster give an evil smile. Dokya says, Sangha, are you okay? She says, yes. What do you think is happening? Don't worry. It's probably nothing. Time right now is 7 p.m. Dokya thinks, it was by sheer coincidence that I checked the time at the exact moment. It's 7 p.m., so the paid content. Someone really loudly says, ladies and gentlemen, your attention please. Please, evacuate, evacuate. Sangha and Dokya are scared. She says, Dokya, what's going on? A red lighting strike appears in front of them. Someone says, the free service of the 8612th planetary system has come to an end. The main scenario will begin now. Dokya thinks, it was at that moment that the genre of my life changed. After that Dokya thinks, it's a dokabi, someone exclaimed as the creature sprung into view. I don't know why that sentence popped into my head at that moment. The subway came to a halt, and the entire cabin grew dark. No way, subways stop all the time. The opening lines of a very familiar story kept crossing my mind. But it doesn't make any sense. There's no way. Sangha says, a dokabi. Everyone is scared to see something. Dokya says, sorry. Dokya thinks, realistically speaking there was no way this could be true, it was completely impossible, but a small portal appears in front of them. Everyone around Dokya and Sangha is surprised and scared. Look, what is that? Dokya is really surprised and thinks, no way, this is. A small white monster with 2 yellow horns on its head appears there. Dokya thinks, so we called it a dokabi. Everyone is looking toward dokabi including Dokya and Sangha. Dokya thinks, at that moment fiction and reality overlapped. Dokabi tries to say something but no one understands. Everyone there is confused and says, what's that thing saying? Some of them take out their phones and starts recording. One of them says, is this augmented reality or something? It's so ugly. Dokya thinks, now one knew what was going on, except me. That thing is definitely a dokabi. It was the dokabi that appeared in the opening paragraph of TWSA. This creature heralded the tragedy that carried on for thousands of chapters throughout 3 ways to survive the apocalypse. Impossible, how can this be? That very same dokabi was now right in front me. Sangha says, I think it's speaking Spanish, should I try talking to it? Dokya says, you don't even know what that thing is, are you going to ask it to lend you money? She says, well, no but. Dokabi says, testing, testing, can everyone hear me? Gosh, the language patch was malfunctioning for a bit. Dokabi really loudly says, can everyone hear me now? A boy says, hey, what do you think you're doing? Are you filming a movie? I have to go to my audition. Dokabi says, oh, an audition at this. I guess I should have done more research. They told me I would have the most customers if we put up the paywall at around 7 p.m. The boy says, what? What on earth are you talking about? Dokabi says, okay, everyone. Please calm down, why don't you take a seat and listen? I have something very important to tell you all. Another man says, what is it? Just start the train already. You can't do this without our consent. How are you going to compensate for this? A little girl asks, Mommy, what is that? Is it a cartoon? Dokya thinks, I am certain. Everyone starts to complain. Dokya thinks, I know exactly how this story goes. I have to stop them. But how? Dokya says, Sangha, don't move. She says, sorry. Dokabi says, it sure is noisy here, isn't it? I told you to be quiet. One of the passengers' heads blows up. And he falls to ground dead. Everyone gets really scared to see that. Dokabi with an evil smile on his face says, we're not filming a move. This isn't a dream. Someone else's head also blow up. And a lot more people die in an instinct. Dokabi is really angry and says, or a novel. And it certainly isn't the reality that you are all familiar with. Do you understand? Dokaja thinks, I hated to admit it, but this was real. My doubt and disbelief slowly faded away. As I watched the floor quickly become painted in blood. Dokabi says, all of you have had quite a cushy life until now, haven't you? You were able to breathe, eat, excrete, and reproduce without paying the costs. You've all been enjoying privileged lives. But it's all over now. Nothing is free in life, isn't that right? A man says, is it money you want? Dokya sees that man and says, "Sangha, isn't that Mr. Han from the finance team? He was employed because of his connections." Sangha says, "Yes." Han says, "If it's money you're after, I'll give you as much as you want, and just so you know, this is what I do." "How much do you need?" "1 million. Of 2 million perhaps." Dokubi says, "So you're offering me you money?" Han says, "I'll give you as much as you want if you let me out of here." Dokubi says, "Money is good. It is an object that signifies an intersubjective agreements between humans." Han gets happy and thinks, "Yes. Money solves everything." Dokubi burns his money. And says, "But it's only valid within the confines of your space-time. That per has no value in the macroscopic dimension. This is a warning: if you ever pull a stunt like this again, I'll blow your head up. There's no time for chit-chat. Your debt is piling up as we speak. I won't bother explaining it to you, it will be faster for you to try to earn the money yourselves." He snaps and his horns gets a lot bigger. Channel number by 7623 has opened. The constellations are now making an entrance. Some blue system windows appears in front of everyone. They say, "What is this?" One of them is confused and one of them give an evil smirk. An window appears in front of Dokya as well. System says, "The main scenario has arrived." Another window appears saying, "Prove your value. Kill one or more living organisms." Category, main. Difficulty, F. Time limite, 30 minutes. Reward, 300 coins. Penalty for failure, death. Dokubi says, "Well, good luck everyone. I expect to see an interesting story." Dokubi disappears. Sangha tries to call the police. She says to Dokya the police aren't picking up. "What do we do?" Dokya says, "Sangha, stay calm. Sangha, you've played the game the development team is currently working on, right? You know, the one where only a handful of people survive the apocalypse." She says, "What's that got to do with anything?" Dokya says, "Think of it this way. We're part of that game now." She says, "A game?" Dokya says, "It's simple, every game has rules, we just need to follow them." She says, "Rules? What are you?" Dokya says, "We just have to figure out what those rules are." Dokya looks around and thinks, a Dokubi with antennae. A litter of dead bodies in the subway cabin. Trembling office workers covered in blood. An old lady praying fervently in her seat. I still couldn't believe this was really happening. But I couldn't deny it any longer. No. I have no choice but to admit it now. Everyone is panicking. And Dokya thinks, I don't know why. But it was clear that TWSA, which I've been reading for over 10 years, was coming to life right before my eyes. Think, what do I need to do to survive? Someone says, "Okay, everyone. Calm down. Take a deep breath, and stop what you're doing." Have you all calmed down? May I have your attention for a moment? As you all know, in a national emergency such as this one, even a small commotion can lead to heavy casualties. So, from now on, I will take charge of this situation. They say, "What? Who the hell are you? A national emergency? What are you talking about?" He says, "I'm an army lieutenant currently serving in Unit 6502. Dokya is really surprised to hear that. Army man says, "I just received a message from my unit." Someone says, "Hey, Army man. What in the world is going on?" Army man says, "I'm trying me best to contact the army base, but what about the Blue House? Contact the president right this minute." He says, "I'm sorry, but I'm just a soldier, so I don't have clearance to contact the Blue House directly." Then how on earth are you going to control this situation? Dokya thinks, I already knew this would turn into a national emergency, so I wasn't surprised. It was something else that took me by surprise. Lieutenant Hyunsung Lee. He thinks I know him. I've never seen him in person. But I knew him by name. Steelblade Hyunsung Lee, Republic of Korea Army Lieutenant. He was one of the supporting characters in TWSA. Dokya scratches his head and thinks, it's hard to believe a character from TWSA has actually appeared. He talks and acts just like he does in TWSA. But was this how Hyunsung Lee was introduced in the original story? No, I was absolutely certain that this was not how Hyunsung Lee first appeared in the story. He originally appeared after the first scenario. What is going on? If I could just read it again, I would know exactly what's happening. Someone shouts and says, the Prime Minister is making a speech. It really is a level 1 national emergency. Sangha shows him her phone and says, "Dokya, look." President says, "Dear citizens of Korea, there have been reports of unidentified terrorist attacks, in Seoul as well as many other areas of the country. The government will combat these attacks using all means necessary." Dokya sees that and thinks, this was also in the story. Yes, it would be easier to believe that we're under a terrorist attack. But now that I'm actually hearing it, it sounds ridiculous. Passengers starts to talk and says, "But why is the Prime Minister making the speech? What happened to the President? Apparent the terrorists already got him." "What? Really? I don't know, I saw it in the comments section of the video." "Then it's just a groundless rumor." Dokya thinks, it's not just a groundless rumor. And soon, also the Prime Minister, is killed live on the news. Dokkabi gets there and says, "I already told you. This is not just some joke. Like terrorism. I guess you still don't get it, do you? No, this won't do. Do you think we're playing a game right now? Fine, according to my research, people from this country are good at games. Then, let's raise the difficulty, shall we? The remaining time has been reduced. You now have 10 minutes left. As an added penalty, if the first death does not occur within the next 5 minutes, every living organism in this cabin will be terminated." What kind of a sick joke is this? Did you hear what that thing just said, did you? Army man, what do we do now? Where are the police? Army man says, "Everyone please calm down and listen to me. Yes, everything is going exactly as I remember it. The events are unfolding exactly the same as the beginning of TWSA, but I can't help but feel that something isn't right." Hyunsung Lee, one of the major supporting characters, has already appeared. But why hasn't he appeared yet? If I remember correctly, he should be making an appearance any minute now. Someone has been murdered in the cabin behind them. They are really scared to see that. They tries to run towards some other cabin, but they are not. There is some kind of invisible wall. Dokkabi says, "No one may enter or leave the cabin until the scenario is complete." Dokkabi says, "It's getting interesting for some cabins, while others haven't even started yet. Fine, I'll give you a little jolt to get the ball rolling. How about showing you what will happen if you don't do anything in the next 5 minutes? He shows a live video of the Taepung Girls High School. All the girls are running around. System says, "You have exceeded the time limit." Proceeding with checkout. Dokya shuts his eyes. All the girls' heads starts to blow up one by one. All the passengers are really scared to see that. Only 2 girls are remaining. One girl grabs the other girl from the neck and kills her. System says, the survivor of channel number Bay 23515 is Jae-hee Lee, a second-year student from Class B at Taepung Girls High School. Dokkabi gives an evil laugh and says, "What do you think? Fun, right?" Dokya is really angry to see that. The passenger are really scared and sighs, "What is this? What the hell is going on?" Sangha starts to tremble with fear. Dokya thinks, that's strange. Why hasn't he appeared yet? The events I'm familiar with, and those I didn't know were even part of the story, were all happening at once. I could just read TWSA again, I could know what to do, but damn it, I guess it was removed. But wait, this series isn't even popular, so I doubt someone would have tried to illegally share it. He thinks of something and says, wait a minute. He thinks about the gift of the author and opens the message, there is one attacked. Dokya sees that and thinks, no, it can't be. The attached file is 3 ways to survive the apocalypse.txt. Dokya is really surprised. Dokya is really confused and thinks, did he send me his novel as a present? Isn't this illegal sharing? Or does it not matter since he's the author? Each of the TWSA survivors receive a special attribute. And a skill that is linked to that attribute. It's just like a game. He thinks attribute window. Then I'll need to figure out my attribute. System says, attribute window cannot be opened. Dokya thinks is surprised and thinks, what? He tries again and again, but he is not able to open attribute window. He thinks, what the hell is going on? If I can't access my attribute window, I won't be able to find out what my attribute and skill are. He thinks, oh, well, I'll just read the attached file first. As soon as he opens the file, system says, your attribute has been activated, you are now able to read at a faster speed. He thinks, what? That was my attribute. It just took me less than a minute to read the opening chapter of TWSA. But thanks to that, Bingo. He sees the cabin number in the novel is 3707. But he is currently in the cabin number 3807. He thinks it was cabin number 3707. With that I realized why I had felt so uneasy. The reason the events unfolding around me were different from what I remembered, was that the protagonist of TWSA's prologue was actually in the subway cabin behind this one. Wait. Then, what happened to the people in 3807 in the story? Sangha says, Dokya, shouldn't we try to stop them? Dokya thinks, he took peek at the chaos and confusion that was unfolding in the subway cabin 3807. It's probably too late for them. After all, only 2 people will survive in that cabin. Someone says, where the hell do you think you're going? His name is Namwoon Kim. He hits someone and says, shut your mouth. Namwoon kills that person. Dokya thinks, I knew who those 2 people were. Namwoon says, didn't I tell you to shut up? He keeps hitting someone. Sangha is really scared. Dokya looks towards her and thinks, Sangha will probably die. Except for those 2, everyone in this cabin will die. Including me. Han grabs Namwoon's hand says, what do you think you're doing? You little brat. Didn't they teach you to respect your elders? Namwoon says, what the hell, old man? Do you wanna die too? Han says, what? Namwoon says, can't you see what's going on here? Han says, what the hell are you talking about, brat? Namwoon points toward the live video of other places, and says, over there. Don't you see that? Namwoon says, don't you get it? The army isn't going to save us. And someone has to die. Han says, what are you? Namwoon gives an evil look and says, we have to pick the ones who will die. I know exactly what you're thinking. You think we're above all that. How can we kill other just to survive like we're some kind of animals? Normally, I would agree with you. But what about the situation we're in now? We have no choice, it's kill or be killed. Who can blame us when our own lives are on the line? Think wisely. The world you knew just ended. And in this new world, we have new rules to follow. Namwoon starts hitting that person again. Dokya thinks, Namwoon Kim, he was one of the earliest adopters to accept the world of TWSA. It was Namwoon Kim who drove a wedge into the crack. Namwoon says, are you just gonna sit and watch? Do you all wanna die? Dokya thinks, and destroyed the sense of morality that had been binding the society together. Everyone starts fighting with each other. Dokya thinks, if now one dies within the next 5 minutes everyone in here will die. I suddenly recalled a line I had read a long time ago. Executioners pull the lever of the electric chair at the same time. They do so in order to conceal who really killed the prisoner. It was as if I was reading that part of the novel. They were in a different world, and I was just a spectator. All I could do was just stand by and watch. That nameless elderly woman became the first victim. If I carelessly meddle with the course of the story, there's maybe less of the original plot left for me to work with. But is it fair to stand by and watch her die? Just so that I can live? Sangha goes toward them and says, they're going to kill her. Dokya stops her and says, don't be so reckless. It's dangerous. She says, I know but. Dokya says, if you go, they'll kill you too. Dokya thinks, Sangha, I guess some people were just destined to shine. Regardless of the genre they are in. But Sangha cannot change the course of the story. Because she isn't the heroine of this world. Dokya says, Snaga, stay here. She says, what? But. Dokya says, please just do as I tell you for now. If you listen to me this once, I promise I won't ever bother you again. Dokya takes a deep breath. Dokya thinks, it's too early for me to interfere. This wasn't part of my plan. She says, Dokya. Dokya starts to walk and thinks, the reason I didn't interfere sooner wasn't because I was afraid of Namwoon or the others. Or because I condone their savage ways. I was just waiting, for the right moment. And that moment is, a really loud bang can be heard from the cabin behind. A really big explosion happens in the cabin behind theirs. Dokya thinks, now, and starts to run toward Namwoon. Time remaining is 7 minutes 32 seconds. Dokya rams into Namwoon. Namwoon goes flying and hits the wall behind him. And says, what the hell? Namwoon gets really angry and says, what's your problem? Dokya thinks, it may have seemed like I had pushed Namwoon Kim to save the old lady. But that wasn't the only thing I had been aiming for. Namwoon says, what are you doing, keep going. Kill her. Dokya looks around and thinks, where is it? It must be around here somewhere. He sees a boy and says, found it. He goes to the boy and says, excuse me, and takes the box of insects from him and gives him one insect. He loudly says, please stop what you're doing. Killing that old lady doesn't mean you're going to live. Everyone looks toward him, desperate looks on their faces. He thinks, good, I have their attention. Dokya says, let's say we kill the old lady. What next? If that old lady dies, we will be able to buy some time because we killed something within the given time limit. But what will happen next? If what the Dokubi said is true, it means we all have to kill one person each. So who will you kill next? Will you kill the person beside you? Namun gets up and starts to laugh and says, isn't it obvious? We'll kill losers like you next. No need to worry about your turn beforehand. The chances are 50-50 anyways. Dokya smiles and thinks, yes. I knew you would say that. Dokya says, why gamble with our lives, when there's a way to survive this without become a murderer? Have you forgotten the scenario didn't say, we have to kill human being. It said we have to kill one of more living organisms. He bring out one insect out of the box. Everyone sees the insects and thinks, of course. If we kill one of those. Dokya thinks, the madness that had driven them to kill the old lady now came hurtling toward me. But why? Why is my heart beating with joy in this precarious situation? Why am I smiling? Was I always this kind of person? He kill one of the insects and throw the box away. And the insects are released. System says, the first kill mission has been accomplished. You will receive 100 coins as a bonus. Everyone is trying to find the insects. Dokya looks toward the timer and thinks, there are 3 minutes left. Namun asks Dokya, hey why did you do that? You could have just handed over the bugs. Dokya says, there were only 3 insects left in the box. Namun starts to laugh really hard and says, so you throw them since not all of us can lice. Dokya says, yes. Namun says, don't be ridiculous. No one in their right mind would pull a stunt like this for that kind of stupid reason. Be honest. You just wanted to watch them fight for their lives, didn't you? Dokya thinks, yes. Namun Kim is that kind of guy. He's cruel and rampant and enjoys situation like this. Dokya activates personal skill character profile. Namun Kim's stats window appears in front of Dokya. Dokya thinks, character profile. I see. I think I know what my attributes are. Dokya thinks, most teen edgelords in TWSA couldn't handle the nightmare that became reality and committed suicide. But Namun Kim was different. Delusional demon Namun Kim edgelord. This boy, who would later be bestowed with that fitting nickname, was no ordinary edgelord. He had been waiting for the apocalypse for a long time, and he adapted to this world at an unusual speed. And right now, that delusional demon, Namun says, team up with me. What do you say? System says, Namun Kim has expressed interest in you. Your understanding of Namun Kim has increased. Dokya thinks, wants to join forces with me. Time remaining, 2 minutes 59 seconds. The first part of the omniscient reader's viewpoint ends here. Please subscribe and like, and if you want to support me financially you can join my Patreon only for $5. My goal is 50 Patreon and then I will become a full-time YouTuber. Patreon and Discord links are in the description if you want support me. Thanks for watching.